the thing is that the more the time goes on, the more I see, and I kind of like I kind of put it to the side during that time that in Christianity, if you let the people go up and say that this is the word of God, and that statement goes uncontested, and nobody's speaking up against it and say no, it isn't. What happens is that you end up falling. These grifters and con artists and narcissistic weirdos, they rise to power, and that's generally going to be true, kind of anyway. But they're doing it with like this extra loaded gun of I'm speaking for God, and I'm a holy man, and they use theology, which it just gives them this extra amount of whatever, sway over people's minds and a leeway, and they get trust that they shouldn't get.
Yeah,
So
these
you end up
PhDs, they're
getting these
Christians
people
from
that you
these
got.
Christians from these universities that are PhDs. They used to give out
Hmm.
THDs back in the day. There used to be a difference between a THD and a PhD. Now everyone just gets PhDs. So you go to divinity
Yeah,
school, you get a master's degree from a divinity school, which means
yeah,
you didn't study anything except for the Bible and you learn a little bit of Hebrew and a tiny bit of Greek. Then you come out and then you go to a PhD program, write your dissertation on something, and now you're a doctor. And all you really are is an apologist with credentials. And you
yeah.
don't know shit though. They're not, and then like they get all this
Right.
authority, and that's why
Yeah, you've
so much
become
of the
an
consensus.
expert at regurgitating the lie. You've just
Exactly.
become expert at. Yeah.
Yeah, you're holding up this like holy fucking this sacred history that needs to be held up, and the only people who benefit from it is Israel and Christian United States.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what they're protecting. Like
And the thing that
it's
comes along with it is that people, when they hear that, they go, "Oh, this man must be like a good man." There's like
yeah,
there's a quality of goodness that gets sort of assumed upon you when you're a Bible scholar or a PhD in the Bible, or you're a pastor of a church, or you hold up the Bible, you say, "I'm a Christian." People go, "Oh, he's a good guy. Like he's a good man." And it's just not true. And we wouldn't do that with anybody except for the fact that they're in my religious belief system, according, as far as I know, as soon as you call yourself a Christian, people go, "Oh, you must be good." Especially if you're studied, and especially if there's people who are listening to you, they're like, "Oh, he must be like way better than me." All the new Christians who are barely Christian at all. They had an emotional experience with Jesus, or they heard the worship song, or they had a low point in their life and they reached out to God and they felt better. Now they sort of like look up to people who know about the Bible.
hmm
And many times those people are scoundrels. And so
yeah.
they're just
And
like
it's
fleeced.
something I noticed that one of my big wake up calls in the last couple of years was when I started reading older scholarship pre 1948. Like Golden Bough, James Fraser, Kyle Karenyi, um, who else? Like just Bruno Bauer from Germany, German mythicist. All these the Dutch radicals. The scholarly consensus in these academic circles back then, from like 1850 to 1948, that century right there, was the Bible is all made up mythology. The historicity of the Old Testament is completely wrong. There's probably not even a King Solomon, probably not even a David. There's no Moses, there's no Abraham, there's no Noah. All that shit was written later. This was all established. And then as far as New Testament goes, it was getting more and more common and more popular to even deny the existence of Jesus at all. If not, Bruno Bauer, I think Bruno Bauer was a full blown mythicist, but his teacher, I forgot his name, Bruno Bauer's teacher, also from Germany. These, by the way, these are all the Nazis we're learning from. This is all 1910s scholarship. Anyways, he wasn't a full blown mythicist, but he said the whole stories and the Gospels are not historical. Even if there was a guy named Jesus, all this is drawn from mythology and Old Testament motifs. This was all standard academic consensus. After 1948, all of a sudden, there's this huge pushback against that type of scholarship. Well, that became taboo. It became taboo to be a mythicist. They compared it to flat Earth. It became taboo to deny the historicity of like I don't know, like King David or something. Because oh look, we found the Tel Dan inscription. It says the House of David on it. Therefore, David's a real king, and it's all must be true now. And all of a sudden, there's like this big push in trying to prove the Bible as historically accurate. And
Yeah.
it's still going on today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we there's so many weird iterations that it's gone through, especially in modern, in recent generations, like thinking of Billy Graham and the associations where they had like these prayer meetings, these prayer churches, prayer breakfasts for all of, everybody in Congress started going to them, and all these, not to mention all of the Christian Israel Alliance people, the Reagan era Christians, you know, discovering that, that Tucker Carlson's in the CIA. It's sort of like the tip of the iceberg. Like, there was so much, emphasis placed on this weird evangelicalism of the flyover state Bible Belt,
Yep.
conservative Christianity stuff, and,
1950s was a huge boom.
yeah,
1950s, right after
and a lot
1948.
of what you're talking about, I think, came along with that too. Where they, because we're in this age of science where everybody's, learning about biology and evolution and everything. So they started getting sort of like rigorous with the Bible and moving away from this idea that it's like myth and theological metaphor or anything. They wanted to make it real.
Yeah,
And so these
because
Christian
it's a
apologists, and
it's a
like they
national
start
emergency.
reconstructing Noah's Ark and getting grants to do that, and weird shit
It's a
started
state
coming
of
out of that.
it's a state it's a national emergency now, because now we have now there's a state called Israel that needs
Right.
support. And how do you get support? Making people believe the Bible and making people believe that's really the Holy Land. That's number one. Look at Yale's,
Exactly.
look up Yale University, click on their Wikipedia page, and look at their coat of arms. It's Hebrew. It says Urim Thummim in Hebrew, which Urim and Thummim is in the Old Testament in Exodus, and it's the divination rocks that they throw to get Yahweh to say yes or no. That's literally the
Huh.
coat of arms of Yale University, the most prestigious Ivy League research university in arguably
Wow.
the entire world, if not the United States alone, has Hebrew in their coat of arms. And you're telling me that these people are going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're really going to think that there's no bias here? That's one thing I can say in the last 5 years of running my channel, of talking to experts. One thing that I can definitely hang my hat on is there is a bias in academia. There's a pull, a gravitational pull towards proving the Bible right, not the opposite.
Yeah.
The academics are
Yeah.
almost on these Christian side. They don't believe it. They don't. They try to stay objective as far as miracles and all that, but they always, whenever it's 50-50, they go with it's historicity true.
Yep.
Whenever there's like a question of, is this happened? Did it not? They always say it did. They just kind of accept it unless we can prove it wrong. That's kind of like what they do.
There's so much money in all these tax exempt churches. They've got tons of, write-offable income from donations through, um, massive, charitable donations, widows giving over their estate to the church, things like this,
Statements
and
of faith.
schools get it too.
Do you know about statements of faith? 2025,
What do you mean?
there are still dozens of universities right now. I can pull up screenshots and show people. I have screenshots. There are certain master's programs that make students sign a statement of faith that they will uphold that Jesus came from the Father, was born of a virgin, died on the cross, and was resurrected. And if you don't sign a statement of faith, you don't get your master's degree. Now, I know for a fact people are going to hear me right now saying this and think I'm full of shit. I promise you, this is a fact. This is an actual thing happening right now in multiple universities. Not every university does this, but a lot of Catholic universities, a lot of Christian universities, 100% do this. And these are people who end up getting PhDs and going out and writing academic books, and they're adding to the consensus of what we believe in, of like of people, of like scholarship, and they sign statements of faith. Now, talk to Kip Davis about this. Kip Davis was like, "Oh, come on, man, it's not a big deal." I go, "What do you mean? The people are signing statements of faith saying they have to lie and say the Bible's true?" And he just said to me, "Well, most people just sign it and they don't actually follow it. They just sign it to get their degree. Then what the fuck's the point of even doing it then? You honestly you don't think it means anything at all?" that people are getting their master's degrees and signing that I will uphold that Jesus is a real person who came and died for our sins and then was resurrected. That's social pressure right
Wait,
there.
wait, wait. We rewind all this. Okay, I got lost. You guys are getting in the weeds, but this caught my attention here.
You didn't
Okay,
know
so
this?
no. So you're saying if they
Here, I'll
they
pull up a
graduate,
screenshot and I'll put it in the on the billboard, whatever you guys call it.
okay, so you're saying they have to say that Jesus is real? Say
They
Christ is
have
Lord.
they have to say there are multiple colleges right now, mostly on the Catholic or Christian universities, like Christian, I don't know, Texas Christian University might be doing this. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I know there are a bunch of them that do this. That if you have a master's, if you're getting a master's degree in theology, you sign a statement of faith that you will uphold that Jesus Christ was sent by God the Father, came in human form, died on the cross, and resurrected 3 days later. Or some of them say, I will uphold the Nicene Creed. Those are the Catholic universities that do that. And I have screenshots of people taking pictures of the sign, the actual like place that they were signing on a screen. I've done videos on this too. I talked to other scholars about this. This is a fact.
I get it from like a religious school, like any other like Ivy school, Ivy League schools or
That
anything.
I don't know. That I don't
Okay.
know. I don't think so.
Okay.
But still, here's the thing though. Most of these academics that are doing theology and doing biblical studies are going through these Christian schools to get their divinity school, masters of divinity degrees. It's more common than you think. Most of them don't go to Columbia to get a master's. They go to these Christian schools. They get their masters of divinity degree. Next time you see an academic who's a biblical scholar, look up their credentials. And I'm telling you, I would say 7 out of 10, their master's degree will say divinity school. And when you see divinity school, you'll know they're not a good scholar. That's my way of testing if they're not a really good scholar. They're probably full of shit. That's what Wes Huff is, a divinity school student.
Damn, Neil's
So
meticulous.
yeah.
That's why he doesn't do that photographic memory reading. He's like, give me you know, every little bit of it. How did you retain all that, man?
What? Just this little fact right here about the divinity
Yeah,
school thing?
like
I just talked to
it's
these people. But this has been my job for the last 6 years, talking to these academics and getting the scoop on all this shit.
such a random thing to come up on a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
what do you sign after you graduate?
Yeah. I talked to multiple scholars about this. Kim Davis is one of them. I mentioned him already. The other one was Richard C. Miller. Richard C. Miller has been he's been outspoken against this. And his career kind of got blacklisted a little bit. He doesn't have a job anymore. He's not a professor. He's good enough to be one. He's kind of on his own. He's kind of like a lone wolf scholar now because he's been speaking out against all this shit. He's the one who came on my channel. You can look up Richard C. Miller on my channel if anyone's watching, where he explained how this is biblical scholarship is defending sacred history to uphold the status quo of Israel, United States since 1940, since he said 1950, but give or take 2 years, since the state of Israel has been in existence, it's been kind of like it's kind of like part of their job to like keep people believing in this shit or keep them at least being like, yeah, this stuff, the miracles might not have happened, but all this stuff historically is true though. That's kind of like the mode that you get from a lot of these divinity school people. Let me try to find this screenshot. I just sent it to someone recently, so I could probably find it. I'll put it in the what do you guys call it? The billboard or something?
What was that,
Yeah,
Neil?
what do we call it?
What do you call it? The billboard?
The
The eagle's
Jumbotron?
nest or the purple pill or
jumbotron.
Jumbotron.
jumbotron?
So
Do
no,
we?
so you didn't know that people were signing statements of faith? You never heard that before?
No, no.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
That's big brain stuff. Yeah, it's cool though. Cool to find out.
That's
Might
why
be
when I talk to these people, they're like, "Oh, academics are all just lying atheists." It's like, no, actually, you don't even realize they're more on your side than you think. The consensus of biblical scholars is mostly people from institutions like churches. The average person does not want to be a Bible scholar. It's not a job people just go and do unless you're involved in a church somewhere. So that's kind of like the problem with biblical studies. I think they should just cancel biblical studies, give it over to the classicist, give it over to the philologist and the anthropologist. Let them deal with the Bible in an anthropology way. But they don't. Anthropologists and classicists, they don't even touch the Bible because they're like, well, biblical scholars already got their hands on it, so I'm not even going to deal with it. And that's why there's such a problem with it. That's why people still think that Jesus really had 12 disciples and there was really a guy named Judas and there was really a girl named Mary Magdalene, because anthropologists are not looking at this stuff and biblical scholars are, people who sign statements of faith. So